Well, we are live on a Thursday evening. I wonder if anybody's going to watch the show tonight.
Well, I do see that there's two watching our. Oh, that's me and you watching it. Ha!
Yeah,
I'm
we'll
not
have
even
a
look.
whole two people watching
I'm
ourselves.
not even.
Hmm.
I'm not even looking at the right screen.
Yeah,
I don't know. I wonder how many people want to be subjected to torture and abuse on a Thursday night.
yeah, there might be at least one or two that are similar to us, and that we just get off into the weeds and all this stuff, and interesting things we discover in those weeds sometimes. I must say.
Yeah, the weeds do hide a lot of things, and when you go digging in there, there's no telling what you're going to find. But with that said, I think tonight, if you're one of those people that you like to go down the proverbial rabbit hole and really dig in on an issue, this was going to be the show for you, no doubt.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I may even learn a thing or two this evening because I'm going to be kind of winging it. I mean, you're going to have to put the saddle on and carry the water on this one. And, I'm just going to do my ad lib and color commentary.
Well, I am up for the challenge of carrying the water tonight, as long as you handle the video and the pictures and the images and all the other stuff. I think I can carry us through this, and folks may be bored with me by the time this night is over with, and they may be ready to choke the living crap out of me, saying, "What did you just do to us?" But I promise you, if you care about good government and you care about your community and you want to see things prosper and you want to see things move forward, you're gonna want to dig into this one. And but if you don't have the patience for it all and you don't care about the wonky stuff, this may not be the show for you. I'll just say it up front. It may not be the show for you.
Well, we'll see how it goes. Okay, so I'm gonna set us. Let's see. Let me drag this up there, and I hope that doesn't play. All right. So I'm going to let's go ahead and do our countdown. Let's go ahead. And as normal, we'll have our intro and ad. I've actually got an extra 1 minute video that I'm gonna play, and just kind of promo the high school bass classic. We had to change from the Red River to Caddo Lake, and I know that's not political, but it does pertain to Bossier because we have a lot of anglers, high school anglers, and junior anglers around here. So, anyway, let's go ahead and get those videos out of the way. We'll be back in just a few minutes, folks, and we're going to dig into the weeds of no profit and water. How about that?
Do it.
Just, they feel helpless, they don't feel heard, they have nowhere to turn.
In all honesty, we try to lay low a little bit because of the fear that we would not be able to camp there.
And I titled it A Shot Across the Bow of the Good Old Boys.
Hello, everybody. I don't think I've ever done a video before on here, but yeah, I wanted to tell y'all what frustrates me a little bit about permits.
Cockroach of the week is, drumroll please, Allie Feaster Smith.
We can't be apathetic about what's going on in our state. We have to all pull up our bootstraps and get on top of this. So you're right. There's a problem out there. I mean, and man, you can see it everywhere.
Well, look, we have allowed government to become our wherewithal to everything.
Well, I've not heard my name in stable or Baton Rouge in stable in the same sentence in a long time.
You're about to be killed by a Zamboni, or you're gonna die in 5 minutes.
This Bossier Watch live broadcast is brought to you by David B. Womack for all your contracting and construction needs. The Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 23 years in the mortgage business. Pelican Training and Consulting is an IWTP customized training provider with over 25 years of success to show for it. Call them for a free consultation today. Pelican Training and Consulting matches employers with 50-plus employees with training dollars. Smarter Geek, making technology easier. And the many supporters, donations, and folks sharing information and watching out for Bossier. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go.
Jeremy with the High School Bass Classic. Hey, big announcement, big announcements. Pay attention, guys. We're out here at the Red River right now. The river's not cooperating with what we got going on. We're gonna still fish. We're gonna move our High School Bass Classic just down the road to Caddo Lake. We're gonna go to Caddo Lake. Caddo Lake's producing big fish right now. Right now, the river is unsafe. It's just ripping and roaring. I don't wanna put our kids at any kind of risk. We're gonna move this joker down the road, just down the road to Caddo Lake. We've already started making plans on moving it. I'm excited. I'm ready. I'm ready to see y'all. I hope y'all are ready to see us. So get ready. High School Bass Classic at Caddo Lake.
Beautiful Caddo Lake is known for big bass and 20-plus pound sacks of fish. It's on fire. The second annual High School Bass Classic is brought to you by the Shreveport-Bossier Sports Commission, Red River Waterway Commission, Bayou Outdoor Power Sports, and all of our partners and sponsors that help to bring competitive bass fishing to high school and middle school anglers. It was kind of slick there.
That was, man. Y'all got a lot of sponsors on there, and now the Red River Waterway Commission. That's a new addition, isn't it?
Actually, they helped sponsor the tournament last year, so this is the second one that we've put on or will be putting on. And unfortunately, we had to make the last minute call to move it to Caddo Lake because we actually have a big production. I mean, we have everything but a Ferris wheel out there because it's a real family-oriented deal. So we have a big stage and everything. We have the kids on come up and weigh in on and all that. Anyway. So we went ahead and made the decision because the river's up so high and we're not positive that it will be down and safe the remainder of the week and in the next weekend. So we did have to move it. But last year the Red produced some good fish and good stringers.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I came across the Texas Street Bridge today and I looked out there and man, it was raging. I don't know what the levels are, but it looked like it was pretty high and on the rise. I mean, hope we aren't getting into that flooding situation again, you know?
Yeah, it's supposed to be dropping at least a foot or more this week, but again, it's still going to have pretty good current in it and lots of debris floating down, and we have to look out for the safety of the anglers and the kids specifically first and foremost, and so Caddo would be the next obvious choice, so we're going to move it to Caddo. But anyway, y'all didn't know y'all were getting a fishing show tonight, did you?
Yeah, well, you know, the water and the Red River, and you know, there's this little old thing called the port down there, and you know, a lot of people don't realize just how important water is. I mean, what is that thing? We can go how long without food, but then when it comes to water,
Well,
we can only go.
according to Survivor and all those type of shows, I think it's only 3 days without water and maybe nearly a month without food, you know.
Now, I just saw a notification pop up from my wife, and I got to tell you, for all of us back here at home, I think it was pretty rude. She said checking in from Milan. And I'm not talking about some
Milan.
store called Milan in Dallas. I'm talking about Milan, Italy, on another continent.
Well, she's out being a world traveler, huh?
Yeah, something's wrong with that picture. I mean, I'm here with 2 dogs, a cat, and 4 chickens. So that gives it away. I'm not in Bossier, right?
2 dogs, 4 cats, a chicken, and some Yahoo doing a quasi fishing show during what's supposed to be a political show, and doesn't have a clue about what we're going to talk about. I just know that it deals with water.
That's right. That's right. Well, we might as well get right into it. So, for those of you watching, and I see quite a few people. Doesn't look like a lot on Facebook tonight. Looks like a lot in the trenches on YouTube or whatever. To those folks, thank y'all. But for everybody else, um, it's going to be a boring show. There are going to be some golden nuggets in this show, and I'm not trying to run you off, but I'm prepping the field to tell you that yeah, uh, this ain't one of those fun shows where there's going to be a lot of jokes and all that stuff. I don't know. We're going to do the best we can do.
So are you
But
saying instead of a stiff drink or iced tea like I usually have, we should all go get energy drinks to try to stay awake? Is that what you're insinuating?
well, you might better go get you a straight shot of vodka and bring the bottle with you to be able to tolerate it. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Well, with all that, banner back and forth, and folks, actually, we're just kind of delaying a little bit and letting the numbers rise, let people get their notifications and all that, just to give you a little inside baseball. Um, so let's get started in this. I mean, what's first up on the agenda? How do we need to lead into this?
All right. Well, to start out with this, I think, I kind of built some notes of how to go in it because it's kind of hard to kind of get started on this. But the subject matter and what we're talking about is there is this proposal from the port to the city of Bossier, you know, to $35 million in, bonds or what have you. And they're going to build this water line and sewer line from the southern part of the Bossier city limits and connect it to the port.
Okay.
And,
And on its face, that doesn't sound like a bad deal, right? The port needs water. They need water on the other side of the river. And if Bossier has the excess capacity to supply it, I mean, it sounds like a legit deal.
sounds really good. I mean, it's the Caddo Bossier Port, and we all want to
Okay.
see, the port thrive. We want to see business come here.
Right.
We want to see the community grow. We want to see, people's pocketbooks growing and all that good stuff. But, there's still a lot of questions here. So, how did we get here doing a boring show on a Thursday night and putting all of you into the middle of this torture? Well, um, the issue of water is a extremely important issue. Like I said earlier, it's arguably one of the most important issues.
Mhm.
We oftentimes we get out. I mean, and I'll say it just our last show. A lot of our viewers, they were really wrapped up tight, over animal control and a
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
And I hate to minimize that situation or because it's important, but I got to tell you, in the grand scheme of things, when you're talking about this much money and this is a big deal, and
Right.
it 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 also it seems like always invariably in Bossier City, big deals always are with limited information, limited time to act, and vague language. It,
Well,
it always
they
it always seems like that.
vague language, and the title of our show is No Profit, show number 147, No Profit. But there are always some good talking points when the talking heads get up in front of the city council mic and say something, or if they're at a city council workshop, it always seems like they have good talking points. I mean,
Well,
again, I go back to, we're selling, well, we're supposed to be selling water. I mean, what could possibly go wrong there, except we're dealing with tens of millions of dollars? We're not dealing with chump change now.
Shannon Coleman, all I want to know is our water not going to smell like, you know, a lot of different stuff. Well, Shannon, maybe not just your water, maybe, you know, uh, maybe the piping of Shreveport poo to Bossier. I mean, how would you like that? I mean, do you think things are going to smell any better? As South Bossier folks would recall, there's a history of things not smelling so rosy down there. So, with that
That's true.
said, I think probably the best way to take off with this thing is kind of to bring folks up to speed and a review. We said on our last shows we were going to hit the Bossier workshop, and to the credit of the Bossier City Council, hat tip to them, because when this thing first came out, they kind of held up, and said, "Wait a minute, think we need to kind of think and talk about this a little bit." They delayed it a little, and they put on a workshop, and I think that's probably what we ought to do first is hit the workshop.
Okay. Sounds like a plan to me. All right. So you're, like I said, you're gonna have the saddle on your back and have to carry me through this. So where are we going first?
Well, I think right out of the gate, you marked a timeline, and when Ben Rottenbuck, I can't pronounce his last name. We call him Ruttenbuck. Ruttenbuck, jumped up to the mic and started speaking right out of the gate.
Okay, so yeah, you should be able to cue it. Perfect. The technology
My
is working
understanding
okay.
that this workshop has been called to discuss the cooperative endeavor agreement that was on the agenda last week between the City of Bossier City and the Caddo Bossier Port, and the terms around that agreement. So it was delayed. Unfortunately, I wasn't here, but I am here to speak to the technical side, and any questions that you have, hopefully I can answer those.
So right out of the gate, Ruttenbuck is saying he's there to speak
Yeah.
to the technical side of things.
In his best Matthew McConaughey style voice.
Now, as I understand it, the council actually really kind of prior to all of this, they really didn't have a whole lot of information on this. In the previous meeting, Queen David announced that we've had workshops, and have we gotten a response yet still to all that correspondence on those workshops that he announced that they had?
Well, yeah, we did. Actually, they did send a timely response. I mean, like almost immediately, I thought the email had bounced or something, but almost immediately they sent back and said that it was going to take 30 days to get that information together. Now, by law, they have to send a response within 3 days, but that response can be that, we're going to need additional time to put the information together, blah, blah, blah. So I hate to say it's one of the few times that they have complied with the open meetings law, but of course it's 30 days. I can't imagine it taking 30 days to find all that data because, we're just now hearing about this. How much data can there be? How much information can there be?
If there were minutes and discussion at council meetings and workshops, it would seem that would be a very easy thing to find, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
apparently not. Apparently not. So fast forward, we got the workshop, and right out of the gate, Bubba Don, he shoots one right out there, and let's listen to Bubba Don.
What does citizens in that second sentence and public facilities in this thing mean? It means we're going out away from the port to private citizens, or what?
I think what it means is that in the development of these lines leaving, South Bossier, heading on down south across the river and to the port, that, I mean, there's the opportunity for citizens to connect to that line as it'll be there.
How far is our line going in? I thought we were stopping at Hope Street.
We start at Hope Street.
Since that's the last street in the city, I mean, do we have right of way? We got to buy right of way all the way down? What's it, about 3.5 miles down from port to
The port is acquiring the right of way.
on down from Hope Street?
Yes, sir.
And then we're gonna bore across from down there.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay.
The port's acquiring the right of way, not City of Bossier. But remember that the port is getting it. And Ben sure seems knowledgeable about everything that the port is doing, right?
Yeah, he does. He seems to know it inside and out.
So Bubba Don keeps on, and hat tip to him because he articulates, his role in here clearly. And let's hear him.
I know we make a lot of water. You know, we're doing the base. We talked about Houghton. Just a couple weeks ago, we talked about the expansion of Wimple Road's gonna be blow up out there. There's other areas. And that's my main concern is continue to take care of the citizens of Bossier
Sure.
and not somebody across the river.
Well, Bubba Don looking out for Bossier.
I know
was
it's
the
hard,
question?
it's not a question, but we don't know how much water they're gonna need, or how much water they're gonna want, or anything.
At this point, I think it's subjective. I mean, that's based on their industries that come there, and they dictate how much water that they're gonna need to run their manufacturing process. As y'all well know, the council's commissioned a water model. We look at everything that comes online and
Now, it's subjective, and
Right.
industry. There is no industry down there that according, they get into it a little bit and they start talking about the new 2,000 acres. Well, there's nobody there. We supposedly have some people, but there's nobody there as of yet.
Right.
So, Ben's saying it's subjective. And anyway, so Bubba Don, he's not done. He is hammering away with questions, and so he broaches the subject of wastewater.
Why do they wanna change that? Let Bossier do it.
I can't answer that.
Somebody needs to, though. I mean, to me, it doesn't make sense.
I know that one of their industries, Pratt, and this was driven by Pratt, y'all probably remember that several years back. Pratt Industries ran into some issues with their wastewater treatment facilities, and even at that time, they could have easily trucked it to Shreveport, but they trucked it to Bossier. And that wasn't driven by the port, that was driven by the industry there.
And Pratt is gone.
Oh,
So
wait a minute.
yeah,
Now
yeah,
that sounded to me maybe he misspoke is a politically correct term or didn't know, but it sounded to me like he was insinuating that Pratt was still there.
right. And I looked at an article today talking about how they were, it was years back about selling all their assets and stuff like that. I mean, but it kind of sort of sounded like that. But the point he's making is that, they were literally trucking wastewater, trucking it to Bossier. But yet in this proposal, we're talking about, Bubba Don, to his credit, is asking about the wastewater. Why are we sending it to Bossier? Well, again, this may be kind of putting the cart before the horse before we kind of get to the red meat on this thing. But the understanding is that Shreveport's got some pretty bad problems with wastewater as far as with DEQ and the government over there. And I think there's some issues there. Maybe they're looking to send a lot of, stuff across the river. But then later they say, no, that's not the intent. The whole reason that we want to bore the river and put an additional wastewater pipe under the river is because of mobilization costs of the boring company. While we got them there, we don't want to have to pay, mobilization fees again down the road.
2-for-1 deal, right? Water going one way, crap coming the other.
So Eric England makes his first appearance at the mic, and I got to tell you, if I was Bubba Don, I would probably want to come down off of the council bench and probably break his jaw, because the guy comes across, in my opinion, as the most arrogant human being on the face of the earth. Now, I might could think of a close competitor, but just you judge for yourself.
South and Dugout Boulevard, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71115. What was the question?
If there's right now you're shipping water, I guess, down to Lucas, which is 3 miles down the road. Why do you want to change if something's already there?
Maybe I'm not understanding. Change what?
To have the city or ship your wastewater to the city, your sewer to the city?
This is nothing about changing. This is about expansion, and this is about future growth over the next several decades. That's the reason for the sewer line. It's not about changing anything. It's about the port acquiring 2,000 more acres, owning land in both Caddo and Bossier parishes. This is about not changing things. This is about expansion.
Yeah, Bubba. This is about changing. I mean, you ignorant councilman that's been in Bossier all your life. I mean, this saying, am I reading that wrong?
Well, the hypocrisy here is he's literally standing there asking for $30 million while being arrogant. But yes, and you're not the only one that has commented or said that, this was at least his first session up to the bench there was pretty arrogant, or seemed to be anyway.
Yeah, I mean, and Bubba Don asks a really great question. If 3 miles down the road you've got a facility that you're pumping poo to, why are you wanting to bore the river? Why are you wanting to pump it east into Bossier?
Well, and I can testify. I think I said 2 weeks ago or whenever during our show. I mean, as a bass fisherman, we know one of the areas to fish is by the poo-poo plant and pipe over on the Caddo side because they discharge in there. Now, I'll say this. It's awfully sudsy water. And honestly, it smells like laundry detergent of all things.
Yeah. So Chris Smith hits on a question. He jumps in here and gets a piece, segues off of Bubba Don, and, listen to this.
So we were given an Exhibit A and Exhibit B, lining out future development of the port. Am I understanding correctly that the infrastructure that we're proposing building will be for this new development and not the existing port? Or will the existing port also be getting water and sewer services from us?
It would be dependent on the industries there and how that was managed. I mean, the customers at the port would be no different than a customer on this side of the river.
All right, so but they would have the capability with this infrastructure, say Turnium or Pratt wanted to turn on Bossier City water and not Shreveport water, this infrastructure would give them that ability? Or are we only given the ability to the new development in Exhibit A and Exhibit B?
There would be the ability to supply water to the port, and however the economy down there dictates that supply to go. I think the intent is for future development and growth of the port, and to be able to expand water and sewer service.
Hey, pause it right there for a second, Duke.
Mr. President.
That's important that I just kind of picked up on after now hearing this video for about the second or third time, but pretty much the port controls the water. Well, once it's piped over there, the port authority can do what it wants to with it. Now, I have an interesting question, and this just occurred to me, so we may not have an answer to this yet, but the new businesses or new development they're talking about, are those businesses, is that development going to be within the city limits and thus taxable entities or taxable businesses by the city itself, or do we even know that? Or are we just getting the water?
No, I don't. Are you talking about Bossier City? No, that's not.
Yes.
No, the port's not in Bossier City. No.
Right, I understand that. The new 2,000 acres or whatever they were talking about purchasing, I think he said some of it was on this side of the river, if I understand correctly.
They do own property on the Bossier side of the river, but none of that property is in either Shreveport or Bossier.
Okay.
None of it is. And case in point, look, folks need to understand the port pays no taxes but they collect millages. They
Right.
don't pay any taxes to
Oh,
anybody,
gosh.
nobody.
Well, the funny thing is, and we'll get to this with the no profit title of the show, Eric England says in this, we're not going to profit at all. Well, that's a lie, because the more businesses they get in there, I mean, it's not profit per se, but it's tax revenue. The more businesses they get in there, the more they're able to tax those businesses, because they're a taxing authority on those businesses.
Yeah. Now, Maggio jumps in, and Maggio asks a pretty good question, and I think it's not a technical question, but it's a question I think that regular everyday folks can kind of wrap their head around. But what's most intriguing about this is Ruttenbuck's answer. Listen to this.
His main. All that, I see the port. Where I'm going with this, these 1, 2, and 3, is that gonna be subdivisions or commercial buildings down there later? I'm worried about Bossier City, then, can we keep our water supply up? Look at Mississippi and Las Vegas drying up. And can we, once we sign, they cut their first drop on signing the contract, we're liable for $34 million. How fast will that take? When can we get our money back? How much are we guaranteed they gonna buy from us?
So we're not guaranteed that there's gonna be any purchase of water. And by this.
Wow.
Now I'm gonna stop right there. Did everybody hear that?
Yeah, let me say it again for the folks in the back. He said, and I'm only paraphrasing slightly, we're not guaranteed that they're going to purchase any water.
No guarantee that they're going to purchase any water. And before that, did you notice how much Ruttenbuck was shuffling around? He seemed uncomfortable to me. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just me and it's my observation from this camera, but he seemed very uncomfortable. I'm just dying. I'm wondering why he's uncomfortable. I don't know. But
Can't imagine.
I guess, look, there's no guarantees in life, right? So I'm going to jump a little bit ahead. And Ben's talking, so here we go.
This document, based on my review, doesn't commit the city to paying back a bond. It commits the city in a cooperative endeavor agreement to share the cost of the revenue that if we got a customer at the port, whatever that revenue would be from water, net revenue, that we split that revenue for debt service.
So,
and I don't know specifically. We were not involved in the master planning and in the future development of the port. And Eric could probably.
We. Did you hear him say we?
We, as in the little mouse in his pocket. Name Eric.
Now, I want to pose this question to everybody. When he said we, who is he talking about? Who do you think he was talking about, Rex?
Let's see. Well, maybe the Port Authority, whoever the Port Commission members are.
Well,
Port Commissioners.
See, I don't know. I don't think that's correct. I think when he said we that time, I think he was talking about the councilman and Manshak. I think that's who he was talking about at that time when he said we. But
drum roll, please.
I think I do. I really do. And I'm going to tell you and show you why I think that here in just a little while. But look, Brian Hammonds needed to get a shot in there. So Brian had a question.
Mr. England, do you know about how many, you don't have to be approximate, acres are in Bossier Parish?
I can get you that number.
No, okay.
While it's not an answer to your question, I'll say notably, our most recent tenant of 43 acres of a 200 some odd acre site, Performance Profits, is located in Bossier Parish. Number 2, Oakley, Louisiana, one of our first tenants at the port, is located in Bossier Parish. Okay. So there was another question about volumes. So when you put together, When you're master planning, you're looking down the road 40 years. This is what we come up with. This isn't we're looking 4 weeks down the road. This is what you all do.
I want to hone in on that. When you're master planning, you're looking down the road, right? When you're
Right.
master planning, he's talking about, obviously there's been a plan, and there is a plan, and there's a plan for down the road, right?
And look, hey, that's when the planners plan. I mean, they have to do something. So, again, Duke, I ask, what could be wrong with that?
What could be wrong? I can't imagine. So anyway, I'll jump ahead a little bit more. Some more of Eric, right here.
We based a model of 3 million gallons a day. At 3 million gallons a day, based on those borrowings that I told you about, every 1,000 gallons of water that you all sell after that, you're going to be making money. You're going to be profiting. You are going to have additional revenue to the city of Bossier that you do not have today. So all we have to do is go out and do our job and recruit industry to the port, bring industrials, 3 million gallons a day, and you all start making money based on the debt service schedules that I have in place. So I think that covered your question, and I think that covered the other question about usage. And I'll be glad to answer any other questions.
So 3 million gallons, and you're making money, right?
Yeah. Making a profit. He actually used the word profit. Somebody at one time admonished me for using the word profit for a government entity. He just used it. Anyway, I digress.
Well, we'll jump ahead because then he gets into rate increases. So hang on just a second. Listen to this.
It could be concludable that if they have to spend money on infrastructure, what you will see is a most likely rate increase, and that would affect users of the system. I do want to say this, though. We are not in a position right now where water demands cannot be met. It's not as though water demands, we're still recruiting every day. In fact, we just recruited performance proppants to the port. We have the water that we need for today. We're looking down the road. We're looking down the road 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. That's where we can go to the city of Shreveport and get a certain amount of water from them. We can go to Bossier. It made sense to my board of directors to seek the redundant and also a duplicate water source. That was Bossier City.
Well, here's what I'm wondering. If he doesn't have any tenant currently to take in water, and Bubba Don said just a minute ago that about Barksdale. Now, I know from a report that I'm fixing to show here in a minute, that's 2.5 to 3 million gallons per day, almost the same number that we're talking about right now. Shreveport historically has supplied that. And I can tell you in the first council meeting, in the first reading, I'm pretty confident that it was Ruttenbuck stood right up there and said, if we don't do this, and maybe it was England too, I don't know, I have to go back and watch it, but suggested that we're going to have a water rate increase in the city of Bossier in 2 years, and if we did this, that would be able to prevent that.
Right.
But we're sitting here talking about 3 million gallons. Well, and he just said he could go to Shreveport. Didn't we just, if we're doing Barksdale, didn't Shreveport just get freed up 3 million gallons?
Yeah, I mean, that begs the obvious question. Why couldn't they just get the water from Shreveport?
Am I missing something? Is the math wrong here? I don't understand.
Well, I mean, seems to be a little bit of a shell game, or with words that they're playing, or word salad. But so correct me if I'm wrong in my thinking here, Duke. Barksdale was being supplied by Shreveport. It's now at least also being supplied by Bossier to the tune of around 3 million gallons a day.
Well, I'm going to show you the stats here in just a minute ago, but I just heard Bubba Don just a few seconds ago say in one of his comments that we were supplying Barksdale. Well, if that be the case, then you know them saying, I mean, if we get to the 3 million mark, we can avoid, and we do this thing with the port, we can avoid having the in 2 years the potential rate increase on the water bill. Well, I mean, we're talking about almost the same quantity of water, and I'm going to prove that to you when I show you this study here in a little while. They and I think the usage rate of Barksdale is even higher than what it was when they did this study. And so I feel like there's something not here. I'm wondering if there was disinformation spread out right here at this workshop and in the council meetings regarding
Yeah,
that subject.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of a little confused at this point. Anyway, let's maybe some more of this will clear it up, though. Surely it will.
And another point I wanted to make, you see him talking about right there, even if you do this, you're potentially going to have rate increases. Who's going to set the rate increases to do this, to pay for, I'm pretty confident he was talking about infrastructure. Is the port going to then put a fee on people? A connection fee or whatever? Is that's what's coming down the pipe?
Yeah, literally coming down the pipe.
Okay, so I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. I'm not sure. Play this one.
And the money works out.
As I see it, as to, and I appreciate you saying that, if I may, as to the money working out, the money is the responsibility of the port, and this has undergone a thorough financial analysis. We've run all the models. Our debt coverage ratios more than support this. In fact, we have bonding capacity beyond this. That's why, frankly, when we were exploring the Bossier water line, we looked down the road and we said, let's go ahead and bore the river for the sewer. We're going to mobilize a boring contractor that is going to bore under the Red River bed 100 feet below. So you can imagine that's just not a contractor you find around town. I asked Ben this morning, what's the mobilization on that? Just to remind me, it's $650,000 just for mobilization of a boring contractor. And that's frankly why we went ahead and put the sewer line into the contract, so that down the road, if we did want to add the sewer, we wouldn't have to pay that additional mobilization cost.
Oh, they're saving us $650,000.
Or maybe there won't be an engineering percentage that would go towards that, because they may not be the engineering firm for the port down the road. Or maybe the port's millage renewal doesn't get passed at some point, and the port has to cut back. Maybe they better get what they can get now while they can, right?
Get it while the getting's good. That's the old
I don't
phrase.
know. That's probably not the case at all. It's probably not even a consideration, but I'm just thinking, maybe we just need to get as much as we can while we can right now.
Well, I don't even have I do have a comment for that, but I'll reserve it and be
all right. Well, let's jump ahead to
another
key point right here.
No. Okay.
Ben, can we construct water and sewer plants for $35 million?
This project is not to construct a water or sewer plant. So the project specifically is to build the water main from Hope Street down to the port, and to bore the river, as Eric described, with a parallel line for potential sewer in the future. And both of those projects come in around $35 million.
pause it here in a second?
Section 1.03, no indebtedness, the essence of the undertakings of the governmental entities here.
I'm sorry.
So that's okay.
Everybody decides they want a message in the middle of a show.
Well, of course, and I'm just going to flip screens for a minute just to do a little bit of a change up since we've been on the same screen for a few minutes, but we'll go back to the replay here in just a second. All right, so to summarize this for everybody real quickly, basically the Port Commission is going to borrow the money from the Bond Commission to the tune of whatever it is, $30+ million. They are going to contract with a boring company and an engineering firm to get 2 lines, a water line and then a sewer line bored and installed under the river from the Hope Street area of Bossier City over to wherever it is near the port. The Port Authority or the Port Commission is going to own those lines, and Bossier City is going to basically pay the $30 million bond back over a period of time for the port by selling them water and doing a, for lack of a better term, revenue sharing deal. Do I basically have that synopsis correct?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
kind of the way I understand it.
Okay. Just want to make sure, and for those of you that are watching, we appreciate you sticking through this. But I just want to summarize it there for a minute.
So let's pick up at a different spot. Let's pick up Bubba on fire again. So here we go.
About constructing the water plants, I mean, doesn't that say we're gonna construct certain water facilities and sewer facilities?
Facilities, it does.
But later on in the contract or the agreement, it says we will maintain the water and sewer facilities. I mean, that's just the lines? Is that what they're talking about? Or, and we can wait till we get there.
I mean, my understanding of the intent of this cooperative endeavor agreement, it focuses on the $35 million bond issue. And that issue specifically is for the construction of the project, which is to bring a water main, 30-inch diameter water main from Hope Street approximately along 71 South, kind of circuitously down as we get down into the rural areas of South Bossier.
Wait a minute. Did he just say a cuss word?
Well, he might have. I was kind of checking the stuff on the phone to make sure it was all plain. But
I ain't never heard that word before. That's got to be some kind of word that somebody in Halton must have drummed up or something. But here's the thing.
I thought he said circuitously.
Yeah, I got to get a daggum dictionary out and read that kind of crap. I mean, come on, man. I mean, is he working for the council? I mean, Bubba's asking him a serious question here, and it's kind of like he doesn't want to answer the question. And so is he working for the city, or is he working for himself, or is he working for the port? Whose side is he on here? He's using words that
what's that? What's that old saying? Dazzle them with brilliance or baffle them with BS?
I mean, good grief. I mean, okay. I kind of lost I'm dumbfounded here. I mean, who's got the definition of that word? Let's go back. We got to hear this word. I got to hear this word.
About constructing the water plants, I mean, doesn't that say we're gonna construct certain water facilities and sewer facilities?
Facilities, it does.
Facilities?
But later on in the contract or the agreement, it says we will maintain the water and sewer facilities. I mean, that's just the lines? Is that what they're talking about? Or, and we can wait till we get there.
I mean, my understanding of the intent of this cooperative endeavor agreement, it focuses on the $35 million bond issue. And that issue specifically is for the construction of the project, which is to bring a water main, 30-inch diameter water main from Hope Street approximately along 71 South, kind of circuitously down as we
in other
There
words,
it is.
damn it, Bubba Don, quit asking specifics. I'm just trying to talk in generalizations here. And
Yeah, and he's throwing these big words out here. Bubba Don asked a simple, straightforward question. He was hesitating and he was staggering, in trying to answer. It's almost as if he didn't want to answer the question. I mean,
well, it
and
seems obvious to me the language of that proposal says, what was it, facilities or whatever, and that doesn't just mean water lines, or it would have just said water lines.
yeah. So this thing keeps egging on, and we appreciate all of you hanging in there. I mean, we told you this was going to be boring. It was going to be slow. It was going to be a deep dive. If you hang in through this, I promise you, you're going to be smarter in the end. Maybe not me, but the rest of y'all are going to be smarter in the end.
Or you may be
How about-
minus some hairs as you pull them out. But I will say we've got over 30 people right now that are hanging with us through this. So, hey, kudos to y'all.
I'm telling you, we got some power brokers here. So,
Right.
let's listen to Ruttenbuck. Give it another shot here.
The equation for the port, and really the equation for Bossier City for growth north or south, is getting the water into those regions. That's why this project, the facility here, is constructing the pipe to deliver the water to them. There could be as that demand grows, I expect that there would be other projects that would be required to begin pumping more water south, but there would also...
Sorry, I hit the button too. I want to pause that for a second. I didn't know if you were going to do it. So is he saying that it will be better to pay off a $30 million bond or loan, as you want to commonly call it, for the Port Commission, rather than whatever it costs just to go from Hope Street down to whatever subdivisions or may expand in South Bossier? I mean, is that $30 million to do that? Or is it more expensive to bore under the river?
Well, I can tell you the boring under the river is the most expensive part. That without question is the most expensive part. Just laying the pipe from Hope Street down to the point where they would bore the river, I mean, you're not talking about much money there. But that boring of the river, I mean, good grief, I've heard figures of upwards of $700 to $1,000 a foot is what I've heard of. And supposedly you got to start on like the Mississippi and big rivers like that. You got to start almost a quarter of a mile to one side or the other.
Right.
So that's that.
I mean, I can tell you, because I used to work on a couple of pipelines, not specifically on a boring crew, but having dealt with boring crews, yeah, that stuff ain't cheap at all.
It's not cheap whatsoever. And, the guy you really want to be is the engineering firm that's got your hands in it. Because, I mean, I think of the total project is where you get a percentage of the project. I think that's how that works.
Yeah.
So,
well, these guys don't really want to profit. They're not worried about making any money. They're just up there to help us lowly tax-paying citizens out.
That's right. So your city engineer here has a few more words to say, and let's listen to it.
But it's in there. So that, in essence, my understanding, and I've been involved in the project for quite some time. So sometimes I'm in the forest, and you guys are looking at particular trees that I'm not seeing as major obstacles. But in general, that is the project. This project is not building.
Now, he's been involved in the project a long time. I thought that he was full-time engineer for City of Bossier.
Well, maybe
Did
he's moonlighting as a engineer for the port.
now we haven't gotten any answer to our public information request about all the communications historically that Manchac, our city engineer, has communicated to our council, and the workshop meetings that Councilman Montgomery alluded to that have taken place. We've got none of that. So I'm just wondering, he's been working on it for so long. When did the council, vote for, I guess, overtime for Manchac to be on that project? Because I don't recall seeing it on any of the agendas. I could be very wrong. I may be wrong, Rex. We're amateur journalists. We do miss things. We're not professionals at all. We make mistakes. But I'm pretty confident I didn't see it.
Well, I didn't either. And again, we could have overlooked it. We could have missed it. But you would think the city would at least have to authorize them to begin this study, or, take action, or, that maybe he is moonlighting. I don't know if it's in his contract that in Manchac's contract that they can't moonlight as engineers for all the government entities around here. They're just making money all the way around.
Well, heck, maybe he should have 3 hats. Maybe he should have a Manchac hat. Maybe he should have a City of Bossier hat, and maybe he should have a port hat. And when he's talking, we can keep straight what team he's on. But he keeps using the term "we," and I got to tell you, I can't tell who he's talking about. When he says "we," I don't know who he's talking about.
Yeah, which mouse is he pulling out of his pocket?
Yeah, so let's move right along. We're going to get through this, folks, I promise. And we appreciate you hanging in there, because the best is yet to come. But we got to get through this. This is kind of like the work product of this story. The best part of it is kind of coming up here in just a little while at the end. So let's listen.
Maybe speak to treatment within this $35 million bond issue, that we are not constructing treatment facilities as part of this bond measure.
Yeah, that is correct. This is the addition of water lines. Maybe, are there pumping stations? No pumping stations, so it's just water lines. Adding on to what you already have and what you're already treating. And it's important to state, again, you're not going to be out of pocket for treating the additional water that's coming to the port. This deal provides that you all collect all the revenue off of the system, and you determine what the O&M is. You tell us what the O&M is. And then when your O&M is covered for treating those additional gallons, then you split the money. Then we take that money and pay the debt. And I don't know if we've gotten to the line by line, but there's even a specific lines in this agreement that says the port's not going to profit. You will never pay us $1 more than the principal and interest on this loan, period. And we're not going to profit. There's no profit in this for us. The real profit
No
is
profit,
the jobs.
no profit.
Yeah, no profit. Well, he may be, he may not be, accurate that the port is not making a profit, but something tells me that the guy standing behind your right shoulder right there, and something tells me he's making a profit.
Oh, no, Duke. I'm going to use a big word. They're just being
Or maybe not
very altruistic out of the goodness of their hearts.
Maybe not him individually, but the company that he's working for. Look, we learned, I'm going to show you here in a little bit, he's standing there representing, or supposedly representing, 3 interests, Rex, and nobody's making a profit. He's supposed to be representing the port. He's supposed to be representing the city. And he's supposed to be representing Manchac. Which one is he standing there? And when the port director says there's no profit, if he's saying it regarding the port, he's probably right. But is he speaking for everybody on this deal?
Well, I can't believe that Queen David hasn't done a point of order over Eric's continual use of the word profit in the context of a government entity, but that's a whole other subject. We don't need to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. So, again, nothing in this loan or money is for building treatment facilities. Nothing. This is simply pipe. You all heard that, right? Bossier's going to be on the hook for pipe. So, I think another question got asked, and we're going to jump ahead and let's listen. We're almost done, guys. Hang in there.
One question, say we do this, the water line is in, everything like that, there's nothing there at the port yet to use the water coming off this water line. And we have a developer come in South Bossier that wants to put in 1,000 houses down there, tie on to that water main. The water, and nothing is there at the port yet, no water is going there. They start using water, everything like that. Are we gonna be required to start giving the port money off of that, even though no water is going to the port?
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
I'm sorry, I'm just coming from it from a builder developer standpoint on.
The answer is yes, because and as we amend the agreement and we attach, as I was saying previously, or suggesting previously, if we attach the plans and specs for this project as attachment, whatever, to the project, any user, as it's already defined in here, would be a user of that system. And that issue has come up also in the city of Shreveport.
I'm going to stop right there because Barry Butler had an amazing comment, pretty intuitive of Barry. The police jury has blocked most city growth north with the sewer system. The only way Bossier City can grow is south. And guess what, Barry? Should Bossier City sign this agreement, they essentially are going to be blocked at Hope Street.
By the
That will
port.
be by the port. That'll be the end of Bossier City's expansion south. And you say, oh, well, all Bossier would have to do is just cut the water off, kind of like Harlan Bean with the water, up there on 220. Hey, Bossier, you jack with me, I'll just blow the levee up, right? Well, it's kind of the same thing here, but Bossier could say, well, we'll just cut the water off. Well, would that be the end of it? Something tells me
Not if they're under contract.
Something tells me that everybody's going to have a different opinion on that simply cutting the valve off wouldn't do the trick. But you would think Ruttenbuck would jump right up there and maybe point that out. But I guess he's got the wrong hat on right now. So, and I got to be honest with y'all, I don't know. I put in the notes for this segment right here, word salad incoming. I don't know what it was, but let's see.
To me, this says that we still have to make the bond payment. The minimum amount for the bond payment. And I guess that's where my confusion is.
So let's use some terminology. Let's maybe establish that. So you're never going to be making a bond. And is this into the microphone enough? You all, okay. You're never going to be making a bond payment. And so
technically he's right.
Establish a parallel where there's reciprocal terms, if you will. We've said, and it's stated in here, we, the Caddo Bossier Port Commission, do not seek to profit off of this endeavor. All we ask, let's establish that, number one. Number two, though, what we're asking is for as long as it takes, even beyond the term of the bonds, if for whatever reason we do not recruit enough industry in the first 30 years to generate 3 million gallons a day of water, what we're saying is if it requires Bossier City payments to the port beyond us retiring the debt, then we're just made whole. So you're not out of pocket anything, we're not out of pocket anything. If we don't do our jobs and recruit enough industry to the port to generate 3 million gallons a day in 30 years, then the mission was not as fulfilled as it should have been. I'll say that. That is a very achievable, and that's why I gave the Pratt paper example, earlier. That's that's one user. It won't take.
Wait a minute. Did he actually answer so the question on the floor is basically, well, what if they don't hit the $3 million a day target and the city of Bossier can't meet the revenue obligations? Let's see what happens. Well, we don't know. We should do it anyway.
Well, that's what I was saying. I mean, it sounded like word salad to me. But thankfully, we have Queen David, because since we have Queen David, I think we're actually going to get an answer that we can understand. So
great.
Let's see what he had to say.
Mr. Darby, are you through, Mr. Smith?
Yes, sir, I'm done.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean.
No, I'm done.
Just for clarification purposes, in accounting terminology, when you speak to a break-even point, that means the point where you start making money. So for the record, in clarification, if you will, that is not the break-even as I interpret it from an accounting standpoint. It's the point where we start making 100% of our net income. Net revenue is the term they've been using. So up until that 3 million gallons a day,
profit
we make 50%, which of net income, which is per million gallons, and correct me if I'm wrong, 560,000 a year, roughly?
Roughly 536.
I'm sorry, I overestimated. So,
hey, stop right there for a second.
Conservatively, we will be making money.
Right.
So,
pardon me, you were correct.
I thought I was, but I was not going to argue. So, anyway, so for the record, I wanted it to be clarified that in the sense that I interpret the break-even point, in fact, we'll be making over $1.5 million on that 3 million gallons per day. And then at such point, we reach the 3 million, we will be making 100%, which will be $3 million a year on the 3 million gallons a day. So,
all right. First point I want to make is, did you notice that jackass is being really nice?
Oh my gosh, it's like sugar rolling off.
Yeah, why is he being so nice? I mean, why does he want this port deal to go through or go forward so bad? I mean, he's been the nicest he's ever been to anybody in a meeting, much less Chris Smith.
Well, in this meeting, he is. But if you remember when they brought this up before, he about lost his crap because they were wanting to delay it. Remember?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
We could go pull the video. He was losing his mind. Just like, remember, he lost his mind on Walter O'Bigby. Remember, he lost his mind on the YMCA. He always seems to look, but here, he's not losing his mind. For some reason, he's got it together.
He really wants this deal.
And you notice we're talking about $1.5 million for the city, and then we jump that number to $3 million per year for 3 million gallons per day. He said it.
That he did.
So, again, I will go back to, if we're talking about, once we get this debt paid and we get, while we have the debt, 3 million gallons per day, we would be making $1.5 million, right? But once we hit the debt being paid and 3 million gallons, he said we would be making $3 million, right? So again, if we've got Barksdale, which is 2 to 3 million gallons, and we don't have no debt, shouldn't we be seeing revenue between 2 to 3 million gallons? I mean, $2 to $3 million, right?
Yeah.
So right now we should see an increase in revenue that would be equal to what they're proposing right now after the debt.
Sounds simple enough. And let me just pause here for a second because the thunderstorm is about to hit. So, had a couple lightning strikes. If the power goes out, then we'll try to pick up where we left off, or we'll just restart the show later on or at another time, just in case it goes out. It hadn't flickered yet, but just so everybody knows. Okay.
So again, I will go back to if Shreveport had Barksdale, let's let Shreveport have the port, because if they were supplying Barksdale and 2 to 3 million gallons, let them have the port. Nobody has to bore the river, spend all this daggum money. We take Barksdale, and everybody's happy, and we ain't got no debt, right?
That sounds easy enough.
Sounds pretty smart to me. So I don't know. So again, let's jump back. I think this is going to be Ruttenbuck taking another stab. And again, I want y'all to tell me, whose hat is he wearing?
We've been working with the port for a long time, and through that time, we've been working on permits, right-of-way acquisition, and things of that nature. So all the permit efforts are complete. Those are in hand. We are in the last, hurrahs of closing out all the property or utility easement acquisition out there.
No, wait a minute. The permits, who the hell is we?
And who authorized, again, maybe we missed it. That's arguably could be the case. But when did the city authorize them to go do all this?
Was he doing it? He had to be doing all this on his lunch break. I mean, this guy.
He's an overachiever.
On his lunch break, I'm telling you, we freaking all need this employee at our office. We need it. I mean, because if he's doing this much on his lunch break.
Production efficiency off the chain.
We should farm him out across Bossier City. I mean, we'll have Fortune 500 companies all across Bossier.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting once, the 30 days is up and they finally fulfill our information request. We'll see.
So I'm just wondering, how many folks have looked at buying a house recently? How many of y'all are thinking about buying a house? I mean, and if you have thought about buying a house, have you, or moving or buying a bigger house or whatever? I mean, what's one of those considerations that maybe made you hesitate and take a step back? I think I got an idea, but let's listen to the England plan.
I think that's important to get moving with the project.
After 15 years of being in the drilling business, we
Tag
go
team.
down and go laterals a long ways, and the river is nowhere near the length we used to go.
A couple things, Councilman. The urgency is interest rate and construction cost driven. And that is a major issue. We all have seen. I was doing a debt service analysis not too long ago, and not too distant past, I had interest rates we had interest rates in the 2s. We're now in the 5s. So let's not
We got to hurry up and beat the interest rate hikes.
And make it another 6 months, especially given the fact that we have to publicly bid, review. You all know that process. That's 90 days just in your bid and review and notice.
we got to hurry because interest rates might go up.
Yeah.
Good grief.
Pull at the heartstrings.
Do these freaking guys not realize that what inflation is doing and what the state of the economy is? I mean, how much blood out of this turnip do you have to squeeze, right now? I mean, when was the last time interest rates were this high?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't remember it. It's been so long, but by gosh, we got to do it now. Now he's talking about this loan from DEQ down there, to where he can average the interest rate down or what have you for a sewer line that is supposedly not going to be used. But again, I'm going to say here in just a minute, I think we're going to show that maybe that may or may not be entirely accurate. It'll be up for you to decide. Each of us has our own opinion, but we're going to see. So I think there is only one more on this video clip, and then we're going to be off of it, and we're going to transition, guys. I mean, for all of y'all hanging in here, good job. It's dry material. This is you are troopers for hanging in here on this. So here's the last cut, Rex.
Okay.
This master plan,
Could you show it to me, please?
yeah, the future growth, the extra acreage that you bought, where we're sending water to. Is it the intention of the port for Bossier City to be the primary water supplier for this development? Or are we going to be a secondary water supplier?
The City of Bossier City will be the primary water supplier to the 2,000 acres on that map.
Okay.
You will not be the secondary, you will be the primary.
That's what I needed to know. Thank you.
Okay. Now listen, you will be the primary water supplier to that 2,000 acres on that map. What about anything else? What about
2,000 acres on that map. Didn't you hear him, Duke?
I
He
heard
was pretty
it. That's what I
clear.
heard. The 2,000 acres on that map. So look, back when I was a fireman, right? They, well, I went to interview and interrogation school, Rex. You may not know this. And I actually went to it because I was finding myself due to the Halfin brothers, and not necessarily Mike Halfin. Me and him did never get crossed, but it was Sammy, because he was coming after me so often for stupid jackwagon stuff. And arguably, that's one of the reasons why I left the department, because he was so horrible and the leaders in government wasn't going to do nothing about it. Now, I've heard they had their hands tied and they kind of really couldn't do it. Wasn't that they wanted to, but either way, sometimes you got to do it. But anyway, I was finding myself in internal affairs investigations so often, and these guys are trying to use these quote unquote internal affairs investigation things all the time. I said, well, you know what? I need to go and learn their technique. So I go to Dallas to learn their interview and interrogation training.
Yeah. Okay.
So you know what? One of the first things they taught me in that interview and interrogation thing.
What would that be?
When you see the guy answering the question, take his arms and cross his arms like you just saw England crossing his arms up there. It means he's trying to hide something.
I've heard that before. Yeah, watching
He got
some.
something on his mind and he's trying to hide it. And it's almost one of those things that you physically can't control, that you're trying to, you instinctively feel like, your body reactions, that you can hide it by crossing your arms, or, like not looking at the person asking you the question because you think they can see what you're thinking through your eyes. It's all that crap. He was crossing his arms. I think there was something else there.
Yeah, maybe so. In his defense, I mean, I cross my arms a lot, especially when I'm trying to be stern. As a matter of fact, you can't really tell in the video, but I cross mine quite frequently in this show.
So after this workshop meeting, and here's where we go to transition, guys, and this is where you may end up having some fun. And it's going to be a lot of us talking, and we've got quite a few cuts. So that prompted us to kind of start digging in and looking, because like Bubba said, in the beginning of this thing, he said, it just doesn't make sense. And to us, it didn't make sense. I mean, we're scratching our heads, I don't know, something smells. I mean, if you, in there, they talked about, they minimized boring the river. One of the councilmen asked a great question, and it was about the technicalities of boring the river. And I think it was England talked about, one company says, oh, they bored the river like 2 or 3 times, in the sum of a week or two, right? Didn't take long at all. It was no big deal. It was
get down there with a shovel.
Easy peasy. But all of a sudden, now there's this big rush. We've got to get this done. And if it only takes just, a week or two or something. It's no big deal. Why don't we get a tenant before we put the cart before the horse? But why is it an emergency? Why do we have to do that? So we started doing a little digging because it didn't make sense. Just what Bubba Williams said. Didn't make sense. So got to looking around a little bit and started off by looking at some of the most recent port activity. Well, Rex, you will remember this, and some of our viewers, you may not remember this, and y'all may want to go back and watch our show, and we can figure out what show number it was. I mean, to be honest with you, I can't remember. But remember when we featured some legislation that Cedric Glover caught down there regarding the port? Remember that?
Yes.
And
It was
it
a
was
kind of a big deal.
Yep. And, Barrow, Fancy Pets, Peacock, and Alan Seabiscuit, they had championed this legislation as what we're told, but Cedric Glover called it out and said, hey, I think we need to hold up here. And Alan Seaball jumped up to the mic. We showed the video, and he was articulating that you were wrong. And then once we weighed in on it, Alan Seaball even jumped up and said that we were wrong. But the language was quite clear, and the language basically enabled the port to go anywhere in Caddo and Bossier Parish. I think it was just Caddo and Bossier. Could go anywhere, do anything they want, and not have to answer to anybody. The legislation clearly said that. If they want to come into your subdivision, wherever that is, if it's Green Acres Place, Brownlee, Sobo, Long Street, South Jonquil, you name it, or Halton, if they want to come in and put a sewer plant right next door to your house, guess what? They can do it, and they ain't got to answer to you. You got no recourse. You can't take it to the police bureau. You can't take it to the city. You can't take it anywhere. Of course, our interpretation of it, a lot of people said, oh no, y'all are wrong. But I would encourage all of y'all to read the legislation, and you tell me if you think we're reading it wrong, because a lot of professional people have looked at it since and said, you guys are dead on the money. You're dead right. That's exactly what it says. So that's when we kind of got on the port thing. And we started looking at the most recent thing. Well, that was the plain dealing wood mill. I mean, we got this national big paper company thing coming into plain dealing. That's a boost for plain dealing. Look, who's going to argue about that? I mean, we're creating jobs. It sounds like a really good deal, right? And I'm not saying it's not a good deal.
Yeah, lots of jobs, big to do, big tax base.
Lord knows plain dealing needs they need a little help. So if we can go ahead and go to cut 5, went back to reviewing some of the paperwork regarding that deal because it was the port. Now I know this is a horrible cut, but this came from the State Bond Commission, and I don't know if you can zoom in there, Rex, but
let's see what I can do. It's a little fuzzy.
Yeah, it's a little fuzzy, but they're kind of in the middle of the page, closer to the bottom. You see purchaser.
Yeah.
And purchaser says B number 1 bank. Right? So
B1 bank.
That's basically who was going to, buy, fund, finance the loan. And, in that deal, I mean, I see down there project, what was it, 50 million or 55 million or something like that. Pretty big chunk. Financing subject to B1 bank selling $40 million of the bonds. So maybe they kicked in 10 million of their own or something. I don't know. But either way, the bottom line is the funding part of it was going through B1 bank. So that jumped out and seemed familiar. So who is this B1 bank? What's the deal there? And because I remember that has come across our radar before, but I just couldn't quite remember what it was. So when we were trying to figure it out, we went to the Secretary of State's website trying to look up B1 bank. Well, guess what? If you go to the Secretary of State's website, you type in B1 bank as it's listed right there, it doesn't come up. There's no such animal.
Well, maybe you made a mistake.
Well, not to be deterred, I do make mistakes. Amateur journalist I am, so maybe I'm looking for the wrong B1 bank or what have you. Well, so I'm looking, trying to figure out, well, where do I know this name for? And if you go back and you look and like B1, the previous cut, there was actually an address, and that address was an address that I have seen before. Just couldn't picture where. So I went back again, looking through some financial disclosures, some elected officials, and one of them happened to be a Bossier City councilman that we talk about quite frequently. And if you'll go to page 11 of that document, I think I'm going to be able to close the deal here on why I recognized that address. Right there at the bottom, you see Business First, spelled FIRST, Bank. Not B1 Bank, but Business First Bank. But the street address, 500 Laurel Street, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which is the same address for B1 Bank.
Ah, okay. So just a, little word salad there, so to speak.
Just a little bit. So, different names. You've got a financial disclosure form that says Business First Bank, and you've got a lender to port bonds called B1 Bank. Okay, so same address. Probably, what's the deal? Maybe they got DBA names. There ain't nothing wrong with that.
Right.
People do it all the time. I've got
That's
a company
normal.
that's got a DBA name. So, still kind of doing the homework, looking a little bit. And if you go to cut 7,
Let's see. Let me flip this off. Let me
or you can
close
go to
out
the
of that.
link. You can go to the link under cut 7.
Let's see what cut 7 looks like if it's clear enough. Yeah, that's pretty clear.
So, looking up Business First Bank, I mean, look at that right there. Trade name, and maybe I'm just ignorant because I don't look at this stuff all the time. I'm not some millionaire, big business stock trader. I mean, look, I'm just some peon, right? But that sure looks like a lot of word salad to describe the name of a company right there, right?
Well, yeah, but it is describing their trade name and service mark, and so, they have to be kind of specific on that, I
I
guess.
know. But scroll down and look. Tell me, who are the officers? Who are any of the people involved? I mean, what? Oh, wait a minute. There's nothing there that you can see.
Right.
Nothing. All right. So go to cut 8. Keep looking a little further.
Let's see what's in cut 8.
Oh, wait a minute. Business First Bank Shares, 500 Laurel Street.
Let me zoom in on that and put my cute little pointy finger up there. Business First Bank Shares. Business First Bank Shares. There's their domicile and their mailing address. And, well, their principal office address.
Yeah, so there's that same address again, the common address that, we saw earlier. Again, no big deal. But in this case, if you scroll down, I don't know if you can't. Well, it doesn't show it all. You're going to have to go to the link underneath it.
All right. So give me a minute and keep chatting, and I'll go see if I can find that.
So as we're looking for, the information on the bank that's doing the financing or what have you, and, we're kind of, it's prompting us and looking more. And finally, we come across something that lists, you saw, and maybe we need to go back to that disclosure. But the key point on that is that disclosure was that Bossier City councilman who writes the insurance for the port, for the police jury, for Cypress District, and countless other governmental entities, reflects his personal disclosure that he receives some compensation greater than $100,000 from a bank called B1 Bank, who is Business First Bank or Business, I got to keep 'em Business First Bank, Business First Bank shares, and, trying to match it up and find the identities here. But he was listed as on the board of directors. He's getting over $100,000. You don't know the number. You can't find out the number, but he lists that he gets over $100,000 by being on the board of directors.
Right.
So, on the surface, nothing wrong with that. But I mean, he sits on the Bossier City Council. He appoints people to be on the board at the port. He has a vote on that. And, a lot of people seem to have questions. So anyway, we finally get to the bank shares one and we see names pop up there. And if you zoom in on the names, there may or may not be names right there that, folks may recognize. I'm wondering when we do zoom in, if anybody will recognize these names. One, I can't see it because it looks kind of small. You can't zoom in anymore.
Well, I can, but it's kind of getting awkward.
Oh, well,
Give me a second.
Well, no, that's okay.
There,
All
we can
right,
do
so
that.
yeah, well, there's one missing. Well, anyway, David Melville is the president, right?
Yes.
Well, David Melville, a lot of folks may or may not recognize that name. David Melville is formerly a person who ran against Congressman John Fleming for the 4th District before Walk on Water ever came along.
Oh, okay.
Right. And he ran as a Democrat, in which nothing wrong with that. Got all rights and entitled to do it. And on one of these other ones somewhere, I saw someone with the last name of Romer. And I don't know what's happened, but that one has fell by the wayside as well too. I gotta,
Well, let me see here. Let me do this. And so I'm on the link that's under the notes under cut 8. Which is the Business First Bank shares.
Yeah. So anyway, there is a Romer name in the mix. You've got Melville name in the mix, who's been political, ran against Congressman Fleming. But let's go ahead and go to cut 9, still going along, looking through, trying to find this business stuff at the same address that kind of all this stuff is happening at down there on Laurel Street. We got another company down there.
Wow, there's lots of companies in that little office space.
Same office, Business First Insurance LLC. So we got an insurance company going out of there too. And scroll down and you will see, I think it says the president or manager, David Melville.
Okay.
Nothing wrong there. So,
right.
It's interesting that you've got bonds being financed out of, of the ports where, in this one address where a councilman who appoints somebody to the port and, the bond company that's financing them is a bank out of this office who also has an insurance company that primarily, and there's another link underneath that cut, Rex, if you go down just a little bit under that link that you went to, that shows you what that insurance company specializes in.
Well, give me just a second, and I will see if I can get that pulled up here. Let's see. That's for the one for Business First Insurance.
Correct.
Okay. All right, let me go to that one.
Now this, nope.
No?
Nope. Go down one more.
All right,
the next
let
link.
me go down. Let me go down one more link. Bear with me, folks. Oops, not that way. Let's see here. So let me do this. Business First Insurance. .com? Okay, sorry.
Yep. So the Business First Insurance that we're talking about that happens to be in the same office of the bank that's doing the bonds for or it looked like was doing the bonds for the port, at least on that one deal seems to be a workers' comp insurance company. Now, what are the odds, of all of that kind of being in there?
Right.
All in the same, it seems like a one-stop shop, right? And by all of this, I don't know. It doesn't, I don't know that there's anything illegal about any of this. Not saying there is. Just saying it sure is interesting that,
Sure is a coincidence.
uh, and I, I, I have it on good authority that there's been some, $50 million individual loans to people out of B1 Bank, that's came down there. Not saying anything's wrong or lines of credit or things like that. Not saying there's a thing wrong with it, but they hold positions on boards and things like that. I mean, it sure is interesting. So we're wondering and wandering along, looking at more stuff and looking in a few different other places, and there's a few more things that popped up that were pretty interesting. And Manchac, because I ain't said nothing about Manchac here in a little while, right? Where are they in
I
all
mean,
this?
surely we
So,
got to talk about Manchac. So
as we're doing the research, well, came across a little gem. Look, Manchac does work all over the place, but and I don't completely understand this right here, but we wanted to throw it out there and direct it to people's attention. Apparently, in 2010, uh, I think it was is it Ascension Parish filed for an ethics opinion regarding Manchac. And you can see it there, the ethics board docket number, if you want to look it up, 2010-742, where they were talking about Manchac being contracted to Ascension Parish and doing a job for them regarding the hiring or the maintenance of hiring people to do a specific job for Ascension Parish, right? And then they go on to say, talking about how Manchac is viewed as being a employee of Ascension Parish with their contract, and then would be precluded at some point from uh, doing business for 2 years. So take fast forward with, and then you got cut 11 that goes with that, in which everybody can't read that. And maybe we need to post those as standalone documents, because I need some folks, especially with some legalese, to read this and look a little closer on this. But in this situation, they were saying that Manchac was, quote unquote, with their contract, a employee of the city with an obligation, or to the parish, and with an obligation to the parish. And today, here we have Manchac sitting here wearing 3 hats, or trying to wear 3 hats: City of Bossier hat, Port hat, and then Manchac. So which is it? Which are they wearing? I couldn't tell. Y'all watch the video. What hat were they wearing? Whose interests were they looking out for?
which mouse was in Ruttenbuck's pocket? Because he kept saying we.
He kept saying we. I mean, and he seemed like he was struggling with it a little bit. I mean, he was certainly uneasy, and I'm guessing it was because he got a tightrope to walk right here. And maybe we're on some shaky ground. Maybe this opinion right here, maybe somebody with a little more legalese can look at this and say, boy, maybe we need to look at this a little closer.
Yeah, I mean, we're just throwing it out there and posing the questions. That's all.
Now, a lot of people said, well, you're looking up things like this. I mean, surely you took the time to look up regarding Queen David and his business interests, right?
Well,
Surely.
I mean, it would only seem obvious.
So, as a matter of fact, we did. And what I'm going to say, Rex, is I think everybody is going to be surprised, because to King David's credit, and in this case, I'll give him the credit for being king, what you guys all need to know is I hate to say a little bit of a whisper campaign. I haven't known for sure, but I've heard, it said that, he had a attorney general's opinion, and he said, I think maybe at council meetings in the past, that he had an attorney general's opinion that enabled him to do all these things. Well, the rub was that a lot of folks said, well, he didn't own the insurance company that his father did, and because he was an employee, you know, he wasn't bound by that. But then once his father passed and he had the company, that changed things. Well, I'm here to tell y'all that's wrong. That's not right. It's not correct. And here's the proof. So in 2013, King David himself sends for an ethics opinion. And I don't know if you can read it, Rex. If you can, go ahead and jump out there and read it.
Yeah, it says, Dear Mr. Montgomery, the Louisiana Board of Ethics, at its September 20th, 2013 board meeting, considered your request regarding whether you may run for the office of mayor of Bossier City at a time when your company, Montgomery Agency, Inc., has contracts with different agencies within Bossier City. Specifically, you state that Montgomery currently provides insurance to the following governmental agencies in Bossier City. The Bossier Parish Police Jury, Bossier Parish Sheriff, Shreveport Bossier Convention Tourist Bureau, Consolidated Waterworks and Sewage District, Bossier Parish, 26th Judicial Drug Court, Caddo Bossier Port Commission, and the Bossier Housing Authority. You currently serve as a Bossier City Council member at large. You state that the City of Bossier has no supervision or jurisdiction over any of the above listed agencies. The board concluded and instructed me to advise you that, should you run for mayor of Bossier City, the Code of Governmental Ethics will not prohibit you from continuing the current contracts that you have with the listed governmental agencies in Bossier City. So, Section 1113 prohibits a public servant, a member of his immediate family, or a legal entity in which they own more than 25% from bidding on or entering a transaction that is under the supervision or jurisdiction of the public servant's agency. Since the listed governmental agencies are not under the supervision of the mayor's office of City Council, there is no violation of the code if these contracts continue if you become mayor of Bossier City. This advisory opinion is based solely on the facts as set forth herein. Changes to the facts as presented may result in a different application of the provisions of the Code of Ethics. Board issues no opinion as to past conduct or laws other than the Code of Governmental Ethics. If you have any questions, please contact us at the Louisiana Board of Ethics.
Now, I could split some hairs there. I really could, but I think, on the surface, it basically says that, yeah, he's said that before. So, he dotted his I's and crossed his T's. He's got the green light to write insurance for the whole state of Louisiana, and y'all can all stick a sock in it. I'm sorry.
Including us.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as sticking a sock in it, not writing insurance for us. We're amateurs.
Well, so, getting off of that, started doing a little more digging. And here is where things get pretty good. So, Rex, I think we're going to have to, so you can pull it up in the background, go to Phase 6 Final Report. And I want you to go ahead and jump to page 5. So when we're digging along, guys, and back, the whole purpose of the show is the water and down there and trying to figure out the why of things, right? And like Bubba Don said, it didn't make sense. Scroll back to the very first page, Rex. So okay. I did say page 5, but to the very first page, because there's some commentary here that you need to, and scroll back.
Okay.
So what you guys are looking at right here was the master plan, and I think there's something cut off at the top, maybe.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there you go. So in 2013, and it was a little bit before then, apparently, a lot of you have heard of Shaw, environmental and something infrastructure, whatever. That it's a Shaw. The Shaw Group or Shaw is a big, huge company. There's no small fries at all. I mean, that's a big deal. They were contracted to do I'm going to call it Northwest Louisiana water study, but basically Caddo Parish Regional Water Utility District study. And you see the master plan right there in the top, and this was the final report. We got all the previous reports, and this thing was very thorough. I don't know that all of the information was completely accurate, but they were having to project, and draw some conclusions on future use, and they based it off of, all the current numbers and statistics that they had to work with.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is who commissioned this study? Because this thing was not cheap. 6 different parts. I mean, and one of the parts prior to this one was like 360 or 70 or 80 pages. 300 and something pages, Rex.
Wow.
This
Wow.
this one right here, I think, is like 75 pages just by itself.
Mm-hmm.
So, what exactly does this report have? Now, keep in mind as we start to go through this, this is Caddo Parish and Bossier Parish, who apparently, that's who this report was prepared for. And we're going to start off on page 5, and it talks about, the overview, and basically the thing was to the whole idea of this thing was to provide a comprehensive plan for Caddo and Bossier Parish for current and future water needs, and have a plan on hand, of what to do,
Okay.
where to go, how to
Right.
steer things. They broke this deal up into 5 phases, 5 of which were completed before this one in the reports. And they, like I said, they considered the economics. They evaluated multiple different alternatives, and the feasibility and the infrastructure that would be required to make any of the plans that they ended up developing and recommended. They included all of that. I mean, this thing was thorough. So jump over to the last or that's wrong. I got my thing messed up. So bear with me, folks. I lost my place.
That's okay. It's a lot of stuff, a lot of information.
All right. Now I want you to hold that place right there, but now that you guys know about this report, I want you, Rex, to jump over to cut 4, the Caddo Commission.
Okay.
And this report was in 2013. And I want you to go to the first, scroll down to the last page.
Last page.
Up one more page.
All right.
No, not that one.
Okay, just making sure,
One before that. I'm
you
sorry.
never know.
Second to last page. Okay.
Okay.
And the first big paragraph right there, zoom it in and blow it up right there. There we go. Mr. Eric England. Now, this was in 2018. And Mr. Eric England, and you see the short sentence right there above it, Mr. Lynn moved on the next new business item, update of the regional water and utility plan by Ken Ward, Caddo Parish Public Works. Ken Ward is an engineer over for Caddo Parish. And so you got Eric England, the regional water utility plan, So we're talking about plans. Remember England at Bossier City talking about planning, master plans.
They're looking ahead. Yeah, always looking ahead.
Remember he got in Bubba Williams a little bit. That this is ahead. Anyway, so Eric England, Executive Port Director to the committee, Mr. England stated that they are underway in their water process. Phase 1 is researching the future and current water needs to serve existing and future tenants of the port properly, as rightly he should. They will take the research and provide information on alternative methods for a supply of water for the tenants and port's needs. Once phase 1 is completed, they will select 2 processes that offer the most benefit for the port and its tenants with regard to cost. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. And long and short of it, he's talking about, processing water and different things. He's not entirely talking about this report that I'm mentioning, but he certainly doesn't mention this report. This is in 2018.
Okay.
So in the third paragraph, ultimately, he gets down into it and he asks, let me find it.
Just a
Scroll
second.
up there.
We're lost in the word salad. So, we talking about the 24-inch PVC pipeline from Lucas Waste, or?
Well, Mr. Lynn asked him if they were trying to grow a water facility down there.
Yeah, all right, so let me put the little pointer right there. It's right there in that one. Mr. Lim wanted to know if the port was reserving the land to grow a water facility or a water district. Mr. England stated they were not. He explained that the purpose is to reserve enough space for water facilities for the anticipated growth of the port over the next 20 to 30 years. He said that the secondary purposes would be for the reasons Mr. Lynn described, but it is not the primary. Deja vu. Didn't he just talk about primary and secondary? I mean, those buzzwords stuck out to me.
He did, and he said, and I'm going to key that last sentence there. He said, but that the secondary purpose would be for the reasons Mr. Lynn described, but it is not the primary. So in the very start of it, he said it's not, but then he said it was a purpose. And he said, but it's not the primary.
Bunch of primaries, bunch of secondaries. It's so confusing.
Now that was 2018. Now the third to last paragraph.
Let's see, third to last. The big paragraph?
And it's done got really blurry where we're talking about 5 alternatives, but we will narrow down to 2 of which will use the Red River. Again, it's talking about processing water. He's talking about processes, and he's talking about narrowing down, to 5 alternatives and narrowing down to 2 alternatives, right?
Mm-hmm.
So go a little bit further, and you'll see in the very last paragraph, or the very last, the parish engineer over there says that they will still be looking for that one big need water customer. This was in 2018. So they're looking for the big need water customer, but apparently they were looking in 2018 and still ain't got it. So
now, what did he say about the port had to do their job to attract enough customers or new business, and growth of the port and all that, and that it shouldn't be any problem to do their job, and Bossier would not be on the hook? Didn't he just say that?
Yeah, I think that was correct.
Sounds like same song, second verse, could get better, but gonna get worse?
Right. So let's jump back to the study. Let's get back over there real quick.
Okay. Let me close out of that. Now, AJ Mandy Foy has a question. So who owns the land? I believe the port does. Didn't he say that they had purchased the land? The Port Authority? Port Commission?
The 2,000 acres, yeah.
Right. Okay. Just making sure.
The city's never gonna own a thing.
All right. So, am I
Let's,
going back? Make sure I'm right. Am I going back to the final report, or which one? Let me try to catch
no, you're
myself.
going back to Phase 6 final report, December
Okay.
11, 2013,
Okay. Making sure.
page
There we go.
6. So now we're going to speed up a little bit and kind of get to the meat and potatoes here. So, boy, it's just blurry. I don't get it.
It's
So page
probably.
6,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, page 6 starts listing the 5 options. And when they start talking about the 5 options, they're talking about breaking distinctly up Caddo and Bossier Parish into regional districts. Go or yeah, go to page 7. Maybe it'll show up a little bit clearer. They broke the districts up into District 1, District 2, and District 3. And District 3 basically, and keep in mind, Bossier City and Shreveport aren't in either one or either of these 3 districts. It's basically North Caddo, North Bossier, South Bossier, and South Caddo. And for what we're talking about, the District 3 is going to be the primary part of our focus. The page 8 goes forward and it starts talking about estimates for water demand per each district. And you may or may not can zoom in on that, and you see kind of the demand that they are estimating is going to be, and this thing projected forward all the way to 2035. And you can see in District 3, they were projecting, let's just pick the number of, where we're closest to now, which would be 2025, 6.3 million gallons per day. Moving right along, go to page 11. Maybe I ought to skip a bunch of this and get to the meat and potatoes.
Get to the meat and potatoes.
That chart right there is pretty good. That was the page 11, and it describes the estimates of the population in all of these districts. It's got like the village water system. It's got, the South Bossier systems. There's 3 that are south of Bossier City. Estimated populations, estimated consumption of water, and including peak. Well, I'm running out of steam talking too much.
You're having to do a lot of talking.
Yep. Then you go to page 15 and 9. Look, I warned everybody up front. I warned everybody. This is torture. It is. So but this is, people need to pay attention. It's important.
It is.
So page 15 and 19 goes into more depth. Rex and to the fishing folks, you'll find this one interesting. So it goes into super detail, talking about Caddo Lake and as well as Toledo Bend, of course, the Red River, quantifying how much available capacity do we have or could have out of Toledo, how much available capacity you could have out of the Red River, and as well as Caddo Lake. It then goes on to point out the drawbacks. And for example, Caddo Lake, it talks about, for some of you out there, the Ramsar Convention of Wetlands Treaty. Have you ever heard of that, Rex?
Why, yes, I have, as a matter of fact, Mr. Lowry.
See, I knew I was working with an overachiever here. I knew it. I'd never heard of that. So you got me on.
Just a quick tangent here, but that's one of the reasons people have talked about, well, why don't they just raise the level of the dam at Caddo to raise the water level to overcome the siltation and silt buildup in Caddo, because Caddo is getting shallower by silt buildup. Well, you can't because of that treaty. It's like a wetlands, and you would have to literally have like an act of Congress and a couple of other countries involved to get it done.
Well, so moving on that subject, Rex, interestingly, if, say, the port or the city of Shreveport or whoever sought to start pulling water out of Caddo Lake for the purposes of commercial, you might have some people who would balk at that. And in fact, you had somebody in Texas that tried it. In fact, the city of Marshall tried it. And they ended up getting themselves sued by the city of Uncertain, Texas. And guess what? The end result was It didn't happen.
And guess who was behind all that? The
I'm
Eagles.
dying.
As in the
Really?
rock band. Don Henley.
Don Henley? Oh, good grief.
Don Henley, let me put it that way, was he's got a place up on the lake. He was very instrumental in all this and helping stop some of this and all that. Let me put it that way. I'm not saying he was directly responsible for that, but very instrumental in all this for Caddo Lake.
Yeah. So page 20, moving along, page 20 jumps to the water supply strategies and the 5 options. This is where the 5 options begin. Option 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And having an option of what the best option if you were going to use Toledo Bend as a resource. Option 2, servicing all of these customers utilizing the Red River. Option 3, serving District 1 from the Red River, District 2 from Caddo Lake, and District 3 from Toledo Bend. Option 4, serving Districts 1 and 2 from Caddo Lake and District 3 from Toledo Bend. And Option 5, serving District 1 and 2 from existing Blanchard and Vivian water treatment plants and servicing District 3 from the Red River. Now, a lot of people are like, okay, I don't know what these freaking districts are and all that stuff. Well, guess what? I'm fixing to break it down for you. So go to page 24, Rex, and here's where the rubber meets the road. This is why you guys have been hanging on. And option 2, and you got to disregard some of it, but option 2 includes a 7 million gallon per day water treatment facility south of Shreveport on the Caddo side of the river that will supply water to South Shreveport or South Caddo, as well as have a line that will run across or under the river to supply the 3 water systems in South Bossier.
Wait a minute. Where have I heard something about water lines running under the river before? I think it was, I mean, it's been so long ago, but I think we were talking about it at the beginning of this show.
I think we had too. So this master plan in 2013, and then, you saw some discussion like in 2018 at a commission meeting. This thing's been lots of planning, master plans chugging along. But if you'll scroll down just a little more, Rex, I think you're even going to see a map that you can probably zoom in for folks and they can see the design themselves. Keep going, next page. Bam, right there.
Yeah.
But look way at the very bottom right corner there, as you're zooming in, you see Bossier City kind of there to the middle of the screen now. And you see that big red square at the bottom. Keep your cursor. Yep, bingo. There you go, is the port. And as you see, they got a line coming north, heading back to Shreveport. Then you see heading back west, and then you see the line crossing the river, coming over, heading back north towards Bossier City, and going up and collecting that water system up there. So what folks need to understand is there's been plans on the books that Caddo Parish and Bossier Parish had designed, whereas there would be a water treatment facility at the port pumping water both left and right to Bossier. Now, a lot of people are saying, okay, well, that's not really nothing sad. That's not nothing fantastic. Well, here's the thing. I kind of checked around with some elected officials in Bossier City, and they never heard of this.
What?
Never heard of it. Had no idea. Now, I'm just wondering if I'm a guy.
So this wasn't a new idea that Eric and certain engineers concocted. I mean,
well, no, this was developed by the Shaw Group in 2013. This was a master plan for regional water supply system, a regional system. Now, it stands to reason. Can you tell me of a government agency that is like losing their mind, going mad across the land to collect water systems? I mean, where have I heard some stories recently about just, how better they could run water systems and collecting water systems?
Gosh, we've reported on that very subject here as well. And I think I've mentioned it before, attended a Cypress District meeting of all things. And we got a lesson in the city of Bossier buying up all the water systems and, why they could or could not use Cypress and all that.
Well, no. You mean not the city of Bossier? You meant the police jury, right?
Oh, I'm
Is that
sorry.
what?
That's the police jury. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yeah. See, amateur journalists. See, we make mistakes like
Yeah.
that. If
Well,
we were
it's
professional, we wouldn't be messing up like that.
all right.
But we make mistakes. We do. But here's the thing. The Shaw Group did this big study, and it was the regional water plan or whatever, and the Bossier Parish and Caddo Parish, they were all on board with this. Well, I mean, they you see it right there. Well, in this plan, that's a 7 million gallon per day facility right there, and taking over the water in South Bossier. So there's that plan. That was plan number 2, option number 2. So let's jump to. I'm going to spare you 3 and 4. Let's go ahead and jump to page 32 and let's look at option 5. Surely option 5 is different in some sorts.
Let's see.
There you go. Again, ignore the North Caddo, North Bossier aspect of it. But for those of you in plain dealing, part of that North Bossier thing is actually, again, water being transmitted across over into plain dealing. Supplying plain dealing from from Blanchard and Vivian and all over in that area, if I recollect correctly. But what I do know is on this particular plan, again, a 10 million gallon per day plant was to be constructed down there at the port. And go down to the map on the next part.
Let's see. Oh, let's see. Am I about at the right spot?
Well, it's down
Let's
below.
see. That's Blanchard. Yeah, that's Blanchard. There we go. There it is. Way down here.
Essentially the same thing as before, except they expanded the reach, and 10 million gallon per day facility still going across river and pumping water back north, almost to Bossier City, almost all the way up to Hope Street, and right there. So
10 million gallons a day. Where have I heard that before? That term just sounds coincidental and so familiar.
So many coincidental and terminology than just all being the same. I mean, how can there be so many coincidences? It's kind of like all those names and addresses, so many coincidences.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Shaw Group ends up on page 34. They come to the conclusions and they present it that the cost estimates of option 2 and option 5 were the least expensive. Imagine that. So the port was the way to go, hands down. And ultimately they ended up deciding, I think it was option number 2. Maybe not, I don't remember. One of those 2 options was the most sound plan to go with, that, a water treatment facility was put. So everybody's probably saying, okay, you've almost bored us into the grave. You've almost done it.
Getting close.
We're getting close. The study keeps going. It ends up talking about operating costs, debt payments, and it ends up talking about sources of income to offset the costs, which were fees on users of the system. So playing devil's advocate, let's say, for instance, they bore this river and they never buy a drop of water from Bossier, and they pump it across as this plan suggests, and then they put the port impact fee for services to pay for. Oh, wait a minute. Did I say something I shouldn't have said? Maybe I did.
We might have to rewind on that.
I might have to. Maybe, is it clicking with anybody yet? So, as they're talking about rate increases and how to pay for the rate increases, they make recommendations, and that was where we got into those fees and millages and all that stuff. Keep in mind, the port is somebody who can tag you. They can put it out there, and new legislation gives them a lot of good powers. So, in conclusion, want to put this out there. Port's got a lot of money, and they're asking the city of Bossier to pay for this pipe all the way from Hope Street down there to the bank of the river, and then bore the river over to the water plant. And they say, if we don't ever buy a drop of water from you, you don't ever pay anything. I'm proposing that, I'm thinking, because we keep hearing about master plans, that might be part of the plan. It might be that they don't want to buy any water from Bossier. They just want to use Bossier to get the credit to get this part of the project done. But that kind of doesn't make sense because they got a buttload of money. But they could probably, and you heard England say, we could bond it all ourselves. We got the capacity to do it all, But so then, if he can do it all, why would he even come to
Why
Bossier?
not? Yeah, that's the obvious question that one of our city councilmen should have asked us. Well, why don't
Well,
you? I
wait a
dare
minute.
you.
As Bubba said, he said it doesn't make sense. Well, Rex, if we start this project that we're locked into the port at Hope Street, and they never buy water, but yet we've got this contract that says we got to maintain it no matter what, and anybody taps on from there, I mean, is Bossier locked in? Somebody in the comments a while ago said the parish has locked Bossier in on the north side. Is the port trying to lock Bossier in on the south side? If they can do it all themselves, why do they need Bossier? They don't need Bossier. He said it himself.
We would literally be tethered to them by a water pipe bored under the river. Quite literally.
Well, interestingly, now a source, had reached out, and did you know that it is alleged that when Ollie Tyler was the mayor of Shreveport, that Mr. England went and sought a contract with the city of Shreveport to sell them water?
Really?
What do you think about that?
Well, that is very interesting.
Now, I can't confirm or deny that. That's why I said allegedly, because I don't know 100% that it's true. But if he was shopping around, back during those days, and this was the plan, it sure makes sense. The terminology, a lot of the same words are being used today, but the presentation has changed a little bit. And when I watched that workshop and the council meeting, I saw nothing that talked about the scenario where the port says, you know what, we're not buying a drop from you, but we're going to sell water. We're going to create our own plant. And I didn't see anything saying that water could only go one way. I mean,
well, if it could go one way, it could go the other.
So, is Manchac looking out for Manchac? Are they looking out for the city of Bossier? Are they looking out for the port? I mean, I think there's some questions that need to be answered there. I don't think anybody can tell when you see them saying we so much and you don't know who they're talking about when they say we. Red flags should be going up. I mean, you've got nobody standing there on your side. I mean, whose side are you standing on? I will say this, legally, who does the people of Manchac have a fiduciary responsibility to? Their company.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it depends on the contracts that they've signed with the city of Bossier and whatever other entities that they're in bed with.
And it raises another question, Rex. We've had it reported to us that city employees in Bossier City are running around town with City of Bossier emblems and Manchac logos on their City of Bossier shirts. I hadn't seen it, but they say that's happening. Now I'm just wondering, since when did government employees, city government employees, start advertising for private businesses? I don't know. I mean, does that sound right as well?
This is getting so ridiculously
If
complicated and entwined.
if that's true, I want to get on one of these government advertising things. I mean,
Yeah,
dadgum,
maybe
we need to have
Acadiana
employees of
Mortgage.
Bossier.
Where you
No,
go? Yeah.
employees of Bossier with Bossier Watch on there. That's what we
Oh,
need.
there you go. Yeah, we need the Bossier Watch. Point up there. There we go.
Yeah. So, I want to say the council did an amazing job stopping and asking a lot of questions. I think there's a lot more questions that need to be asked, but they did really good. I will tell you, I think if you really watched all of that workshop, I thought that was an example of good government. It really
Yeah,
was, because
they
those
were
guys.
putting the brakes on the project and asking some questions. And I'd argue, I think they're supposed to vote on this, what, Tuesday? Is that the final reading or?
I think so, and I mean they did a good thing. I mean, here again, it's a big project, short notice, you know, unpredictable circumstances, and they got to rush, rush, rush. It's always big dollar projects, limited information, vague language, and it's always an emergency timeline. It's always. Why is it always like that on the big stuff? It always seems to be. And it's not right for them to be faced with that. So I say the council would be well served to tap the brakes on this. And, look, the bottom line is we're talking about, as it stands right now, a pipe to an empty field. That's the bottom line. We're
Field of
we're talking
Dreams.
about we're talking about screwing ourselves, locking our city limit down at Hope Street, for a pipe to an empty field. Bottom line.
It goes back to that old saying: if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Well, that's all I got, and I hope it's been informative. I hope that people read through the information that we shared. That report, Rex, can you post it up on this show
Yes.
somewhere so folks can have it to access and look at it themselves? There's a ton of data there. If you want to get the other reports, you can hit us up on Proton Mail or Gmail, and we will send you some links to that. And anyway,
Yeah.
I hope that helped.
Well, it's been another very informative show, and you did an excellent job of wading through the weeds and trying to get us all through it. So kudos to you for all the hard work. You did the vast majority of it tonight. I was just here for the color commentary. Folks, we'd like to thank all of y'all for sticking with us. We're still at 30-something people watching across all the platforms, and of course, I'll release the podcast shortly after this as well if you want the audio version. And, our same deal. If you have some information you want to send to us, want it to be anonymous, create your free Proton Mail account. Don't put any identifying information in it. Send us an email from that account to bossierwatch@protonmail.com. We do read those. We appreciate everybody, even the people that have sent us some Facebook stars recently. Thank you very much. If you want to donate some coffee money to us, go to bossierwatch.org or .com. It'll take you to the same place. There's a donation link, coffee mugs for sale, and I think that's all the spill that I can remember.
Have a good night. See y'all Tuesday. Hey, and don't let the Halton government hacks censor you.
Yes. Oh, and I've got some new information I'm going to post about that too as well. So anyway, we'll talk to you later, folks.
Good night.